to honor our nation's fighting men from all services. I am Dwight D. Eisenhower, General of the Army, but today you can just call me Ike. We meet here at an auspicious time, having recently celebrated the birthday of several of America's fighting forces that were born in 1775. The United States Army on June 14th. Okay, Army. The United States Navy on October 13th. And the Marine Corps, only yesterday on November 10th. We're going to have something very special for the Marine Corps in just a few minutes here. To those honored services, we can add the United States Coast Guard, born on August 4th, 1790. The United States Air Force, born September 17th, 1947. Can thank my old buddy Hap Arnold for that one. And something called the United States Space Force on December 20th, 2019. I know a few things about space. I actually started NASA when I was president. So, in my career as a soldier, and later as President of the United States, I had the honor of giving two brief speeches, and I do mean brief, that I believe encapsulate the enormous debt we owe our veterans. The first was my Order of the Day, delivered on June 6, 1944, the day that saw the beginning of the liberation of Europe. And it goes like this. Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade towards which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. The enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has changed since the Nazi triumphs of 1940 and 41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously restricted his strength in the air and diminished his ability to fight war on the ground. Our home fronts have delivered an overwhelming superiority in the materials and munitions of war and given us great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching on to victory. I have every belief in your courage, your skill in battle, and your devotion to duty. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and may we all pray the blessings of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking. Now, June 6, 1944 was a hard day. We suffered 10,000 casualties that day, more than 2,500 killed. I had met many of those boys, looked into their eyes just hours before they set forth. I still think about that day often. There is no glory, no place that any man or woman can reach in the world, no honor that can ever hide in their heart that can match the sacrifices that America's fighting men pay to retain our freedom. Now, the second speech came 10 years later, the second year of my presidency, when America celebrated our first ever Veterans Day. Whereas it has been our custom to commemorate November 11th, the anniversary of the ending of World War I, by paying tribute to the heroes of that tragic struggle, and by rededicating ourselves to the cause of peace. Whereas in the intervening years, the United States has been involved in 2 other great military conflicts, which have added millions of veterans, living and dead, to the honor rolls of our nation. And whereas the Congress passed an act approved May 13th, 1938, that the 11th of November shall be a legal holiday and shall be known as Armistice Day. And whereas, in order to expand the significance of that commemoration, and in order that a grateful nation can pay appropriate homage to the veterans of all of its wars who have contributed so much to the preservation of the United States, now, therefore, I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, President of the United States of America, do hereby call upon all our citizens to observe November 11th as Veterans Day. On that day, let us solemnly remember that the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom. And let us reconsecrate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace, so that their efforts shall not have been in vain. Now, I will add to this proclamation a brief personal observation. While I was deeply honored to serve as your president for 8 years, and there can be no greater honor than that, it is my 47 years as a soldier in our nation's service that I remember most fondly. And when it was my time to take leave of this world, I chose to be buried in this uniform, which is why I appear to you this way today. Now, thank you for all of your kind attention, and God bless the United States of America and all of its veterans. Now, I promised you a special treat for the Marine Corps, and that's what we're going to do. On February 19th, 1945, the Marines stormed the black sands of Iwo Jima. The island was defended by over 20,000 well-entrenched Japanese soldiers who had spent nearly a year building a complex network of interlocking defenses and tunnels that had yet to be seen in the Pacific War. Despite an extensive naval and aerial bombardment, resistance was fierce and was described by war correspondent Robert Sherrod as a nightmare in hell. After 4 days of intense fighting, the men of Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 28th Marines, were given the task to seize and occupy the crest of Mount Suribachi. After reaching the peak, these weary men raised the stars and stripes on the mountain's peak as a monument to their hard-fought accomplishment. However, the flag was deemed too small to be seen from the rest of the island, and a second larger flag was ordered to be placed on top of the mountain. It was this second raising of the flag that would go down in history. No image from the Second World War is as dynamic and reflective of the spirit of the Marine Corps than the image captured by Associated Press photographer Joe Rosenthal on that second flag raising. The men seen in this legendary image: Corporal Harlan Block, PFC Harold Keller, PFC Franklin Sousley, Sergeant Michael Strank, PFC Harold Schultz, and PFC Ira Hayes, would quickly be featured on every major newspaper's front page and inspire a war-weary nation. Now, within a few weeks of the photograph being taken, 3 of the men seen there, Block, Sousley, and Strank, would be among the 6,821 Americans to have paid the ultimate price on that small island in the Pacific. Their legacy and sacrifice is honored here today. We leave you now with the words of President Harry Truman as he addressed the nation on July 4th, 1945. Here at home, let us honor our nation's creed of liberty and the men and women of our armed forces who are carrying this creed with them throughout the world. Let's hear it for the men of the Iwo Jima Project. And if you missed that great photo op just now, we're going to do it again at 12:20 in the main courtyard here. So be ready. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now on with the program.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Melissa Giller. I have the honor of being the Chief Marketing Officer here for the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. Thank you for joining us today. Before we get started, I would like to thank the Condor Squadron for that amazing flyover outside earlier today. Please also join me in thanking Royal High School's Wind Ensemble, the Santa Susana High School Abbey Road a cappella group, and the Iwo Jima flag-raising recreation by members of the Historical Unit of Southern California for such a great beginning to today's program. I'm going to pause for 1 second to let them move the flag. There we go. Okay. If you would, and if you're able, I'm going to ask you now to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, our national anthem, and the Ronald Reagan Marine Corps League Detachment 597, who will now parade the colors. March on the colors.
Time. March. Left, right. Turn right. Halt. Down. Hit. And read. Come. Free. Done. Halt.
Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land
Thank you. Please be seated. So there are a few special guests with us today who have helped make our Veterans Day ceremony here at the Reagan Library possible. Again, a very special thank you to Lisa Pate and Bevan Abbey for providing today's terrific musical performances. To Bob Carroll and the Washington Artillery of New Orleans for their great reenactments in the courtyard. A special thank you to Projects Piece by Piece, who will be playing in the courtyard later this afternoon. Helping us today, the American Heritage Girls Troop 2911, Rick Robledo and the U.S. Naval Sea Cadets, and for the troops of Simi Valley. Also, a very special, profound thank you for the team from Brothers After War, who are conducting a powerful, evidence-based program this afternoon designed to support veterans and their families as they navigate the challenges of transition and healing from the inevitable wounds of war. Let's give them applause. And then just a few people to recognize from the city of Simi Valley. We have Councilmember Rocky Rhodes. From Naval Base Ventura County, Stanford Park's Navy Wounded Warrior Coordinator. And with him here today, Wounded Warrior Petty Officer 3rd Class Brianne Oliver. Thank you for coming. Of course, Reagan Foundation and President CEO David Trulio here with his family. And of course, most importantly, a special thank you to all of the veterans here in our audience today. We thank you for your honor, for your bravery, and for your dedication to its country and its freedom. Will you all please stand so we can give you a round of applause? Truly remarkable. We know you all have so many places you could be today, and that you're here with us just means a lot. Thank you. So in honor of Veterans Day in 1986, President Reagan said the following, quote, "On Veterans Day, we take respite from the ordinary business of daily life to pay honor to those who have served in the armed forces throughout our nation's history. It is right that we should meditate upon the principles for which so many Americans have fought: peace, freedom, and the sacred dignity of all men, principles that still give hope to the nation. But let us above all consider the veterans themselves, the millions of men and women who have given of themselves, even of their lives, and they have prevailed so that today the United States of America is the greatest nation on earth." He continued, "We also pledge again what we have pledged before. We will write no final chapters. We will close no books until we have a fullest possible accounting of all of those missing in action and repatriation of the remains of those who died serving our nation. In our hearts, we will hold these men, husbands, fathers, sons, brothers, and sweethearts, and we will never forget. America will not leave its men on the battlefield. Our veterans, then, are the heroes among us. On this Veterans Day, let us pay them tribute, and let us resolve to live up to their example. In honor of these men and of these women, those who are currently fighting, those who are missing, those who have perished, and those who are veterans, may I please ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. And now on to today's program. So to introduce today's keynote speaker, I need to set the context for how we came to be here today. So in October of 2024, I received an autographed copy of his book, Canyon of Hope, in the mail. It's such an important story, one that took extreme courage to share. As you'll hear shortly, at the young age of 37, Eric had been to war, survived multiple explosions, lost children and countless friends, and was on the verge of losing his marriage. Sitting at his kitchen table, Eric began to squeeze the trigger. Thankfully, it refused to move. He went from that moment to today, a shining example of resilience, leadership, and purpose-driven living. His multifaceted journey from combat veteran to mental health advocate, award-winning photographer, international volunteer, embodies his lifelong mission to turn adversity into impact, and we are so incredibly honored to have him here with us today. As a retired sergeant in the U.S. Army, Eric's military career was defined by courage and perseverance. He was awarded the Purple Heart, 2 Army Commendation Medals, the Operation Iraqi Freedom Campaign Medal with Star, and the Combat Infantry Badge. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to introduce you all to Eric Donoho.
Let me first start by saying what an honor it is here to be here at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library on Veterans Day, to be speaking to you in a place that reflects America's highest ideals of leadership, service, and sacrifice is a privilege that I hold with deep gratitude. To the entire team at the Reagan Library, thank you for entrusting me with this honor. I'd also like to thank my family for all their love and support throughout the years, who from the looks of it might make up half the audience here today, which means while the rest of you, I hope, are eagerly listening, they will be judging every word. So that means this year at Thanksgiving, it might go a little awkward if today is a bit of a rough speech. November 11th, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. It was on that day in 1918 that the guns of World War I, the war they called the war to end all wars, fell silent. The nations signed an armistice, a truce to end the fighting. A year later, Americans began to mark that moment as Armistice Day. In 1938, it became a national holiday. In 1954, after World War II and Korea, it was renamed Veterans Day, honoring not just those who fought in one war, but every brother and sister who has ever raised their right hand to defend this great nation of ours. That's the history. That's the textbook definition of Veterans Day. But for me, Veterans Day isn't about free meals or discounts. It isn't about standing when my branch of service is called at a parade or a presentation. For me, Veterans Day is a marker, a reminder, a measuring stick. It's the day I look in the mirror and I ask, am I living a life worthy of the brothers I lost? Am I living a life worthy of the wife who stood by me? Am I living a life worthy of the uniform I once wore? Am I living a life that teaches my children what resilience and faith looks like? At 26 years old, I was building a career. I was working in radio marketing, and by most standards, I was doing well. But inside, something was missing. I had success, but I didn't have direction. I had opportunity, but I didn't have discipline. I had ambition, but I didn't have confidence. Most of all, I hadn't found my purpose, that passion, that fire that drives you forward in life. Then came a pull, a call I couldn't understand and couldn't ignore, a voice that said, there's more to you than this. So one day I walked into a recruiter's office to sell them advertising, and I made a choice. Not just to join the Army, but to answer that call to service. And while that choice cost me the freedom to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, it gave me something far greater. It gave me discipline, confidence, brotherhood, and a chance to grow through discomfort. It gave me a life I could have never imagined when I was younger. And that's why when people thank me for my service, there's usually an awkward and uncomfortable moment of silence followed up by me saying, no, thank you for the opportunity to serve. because without the privilege of serving, I wouldn't have the blessings and lessons that mean so much to me today. One of those blessings is a flight to Alaska. And sitting right next to me on that flight was Jen. She would become my best friend, the love of my life, the mother of my children, the angel God sent me because he knew the valleys ahead and the strength I'd need by my side. Without my service, I don't meet Jen, who for more than 20 years, through every joy and every trial, has walked faithfully by my side. When I had no faith, I leaned on hers until mine could grow. She became my foundation, my steady hand, my challenger, and the love that believed when I couldn't. I would not be standing here today without her. If it weren't for my service, I wouldn't have landed in Alaska at Fort Richardson. I wouldn't have seen the northern lights blaze across the sky while lying in nothing but a sleeping bag at 20 below, trying to convince myself that this was character building. I wouldn't know what it feels like to snowshoe for miles through the mountains until my face froze so solid I looked like an extra in a bad winter survival movie. I wouldn't have jumped out of a perfectly good airplane into the Arctic night only to discover that the frozen air at 1,200 feet will slap the confidence right out of you. But if it weren't for my service, I wouldn't know how those miserable, frozen moments taught me to laugh, to endure, and to trust that sometimes the coldest, darkest nights revealed the brightest skies. If it weren't for my service, I wouldn't know what it was like to be blown up by roadside bombs. Not one, not two, but three. Each one a reminder of how fragile life is and how resilient the human body can be. I wouldn't know what it feels like to sit down to eat only to be rocked by a Katyusha rocket attack, turning a quiet moment into chaos, to rush towards the smoke, looking for the wounded when everything inside you wants to run in the opposite direction. I wouldn't know what it feels like to say goodbye to brothers who didn't make it home, or the ones who did but for whom the war never left. To stand in silence, staring at a pair of boots, helmet, rifle, making a promise that their lives won't be forgotten. I wouldn't know what it feels like to be told my days as an airborne infantryman are over, to sit with doctors' words, to feel the anger and grief of having to leave a profession I had come to love, all while hiding it behind a smile. But if it weren't for my service, I also wouldn't have learned that even hidden pain can become holy ground. I wouldn't know the grit it takes to push through when everything around you falls apart. I wouldn't know how far the human body can be pushed and how much further the mind can take it. I wouldn't know that growth only comes from walking through the fire and refusing to quit. If it weren't for my service, I wouldn't have been medically retired, and I wouldn't have had the unexpected privilege of becoming a stay-at-home dad. And let me tell you, that transition was humbling. One day I was a sergeant in a scout sniper platoon. The next day I'm on a recon mission through the aisles of Target armed with a diaper bag. If it weren't for my service, I wouldn't know the fear of a toddler meltdown in the cereal aisle or the chaos of negotiating with a three-year-old like it's a hostage situation, or the pain of realizing nothing in the Army prepared me for the sound of Happy Song on repeat. But if it weren't for my service, I wouldn't have had the blessing of being home, to be more than a soldier, to be a father. And I wouldn't have seen how God used those years to grow my faith, my patience, and most importantly, my love. Even with the gift of being home, being home with my kids, the weight of war seeped through the cracks of my foundation. From the moment I returned home, I did the work. I went to counseling, I sat in group sessions, I did everything they said would help me heal from PTSD, but nothing worked. The nightmares didn't stop, the guilt didn't fade, and every failure to get better made me feel like I was the failure. That lie carried me to my kitchen table one cold December day, convinced that life was no longer worth living. The same man who had fought in combat was ready to give up in his own home. But God provided me a grace and love I didn't deserve. He preserved my life that day because he wasn't finished with me yet. And in time, I learned what I carried wasn't just PTSD. It was deeper. It was a wound to the soul, to my spirit. And that type of wound has a name. It's called moral injury. And the only way through moral injury isn't more PTSD treatment. It's faith. It's service. It's giving the broken pieces back to God and letting him make them whole. If it weren't for my service, I wouldn't know the heartbreak of saying goodbye to one of my very best friends, a brother, a man who had saved my life at war and at home. And yet, I couldn't save him, a weight I still carry today. I wouldn't know what it feels like to whisper "Till Valhalla" through the tears, to feel like I failed him, even though he never failed me. If it weren't for my service, I wouldn't have known the pain of losing Brent, but I wouldn't have discovered the sacred responsibility of living a life that honors him, carrying his memory forward with every step I take and every story I tell. It's in that pain that God began to turn me outwards, delivering wheelchairs into the mountains of Nepal, lifting children who had been carried their whole lives into a new kind of freedom. I wouldn't have sat with mothers whose arms finally rested, their tears mixing with gratitude and relief. If it were not for my service, I would not have walked the halls of Capitol Hill, helping shape laws, securing care, and creating lifelines for veterans and their families. All because I chose to turn despair into action and grief into purpose. If it were not for my service, I wouldn't know what it feels like to face cancer, thyroid cancer. I wouldn't know the fear of hearing that word. I wouldn't know the humbling reminder of that no matter how strong we think we are, life will test us. And it was through that test that I learned gratitude. I wouldn't know the gift of coming out the other side cancer-free. I wouldn't know the renewed gratitude for every day, every breath, and every chance to live with faith, purpose, and love. Most of all, if it weren't for my service, I wouldn't have found my faith. I wouldn't have discovered that healing doesn't come from forgetting, but from serving, from believing, and trusting God with everything you have. So yes, my service gave me scars, but my service gave me my life, which is why when people say to me, "Thank you for your service," I look at them and I say, "No, thank you. Thank you for the privilege to serve. Thank you for the chance to endure. And thank you for the life I have built because of it." To my brothers and sisters here today, if you're struggling, don't give up. If you've been told you have PTSD and nothing helps, maybe it's not PTSD. Maybe it's moral injury. And the only treatment for moral injury is faith and service. Most importantly, don't give in to this narrative that our veteran community is broken because of our service. That's a lie. We are not broken. The truth is, we are an economic powerhouse, adding $1.3 trillion to the annual GDP and employing over 2.2 million Americans across this great country we love. So it's time that we stop asking what the world can do for us and we start asking what we can still do for the world. Because if we didn't raise our right hands for free lunches, we didn't put on the uniform for recognition, we did it because we believed in something greater than ourselves, and we can believe again. We can serve again in our homes, in our communities, and in our cities or states. In closing, without my service, there is no book, there is no family, there is no faith. Without my service, there is no me. So don't thank me. Let me thank you. Thank you for letting me serve. Thank you for giving me this life. Thank you for reminding me that through faith, service, and sacrifice, anything is possible. And because of that, I love my God and my life. And I will keep walking through all the highs and lows of this life with gratitude because I know God is walking right next to me as he is with all of you. God bless you, and God bless this great country of ours.
If I could just add, Eric, because of your service, you are here with us today, sharing that very important message. And whether you want to hear it or not, thank you for your service. I also want to let you know I think you're going to have a really good Thanksgiving. I watched your family, and the earnestness and pride and love of which they watched you give those remarks was heartwarming. So thank you. Okay, so now it's time for, although it's hard to top that, but my favorite part of the program, where we recognize all of you who are here today representing our different branches of military. Now, I know you kind of talked about standing up for parades, but we're gonna do it anyway. Our orchestra and choir will be performing a service medley. When you stand so we can salute you. In addition, if you are a family member here representing a member of the military or here with someone from the military, please stand as well when their branch's song is played so we can remember everyone who has participated or sacrificed in protecting our country's freedom.
First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. Then it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Counts off the cadence loud and strong. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. Marines! From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles from the air, on land, and sea. First we fight
Remarkable, right? Hearing that gives me such hope for our future. Thank you for that beautiful contribution to today's program. Can we give them all another round of applause? Before we conclude today's program, I do want to remind you the programming for Veterans Day does continue. As President Eisenhower shared with us earlier, they will be doing another Iwo Jima reenactment at 12:20, and at 12:30 we have a musical performance by Project Piece by Piece, made up of students from Ventura County and Los Angeles counties. Directly at the end of this program, which is just about 2 minutes from now, we're going to remove this podium, and Eric's going to sit on stage, meet all of you, and sign copies of his book. If you haven't yet purchased a copy, you can buy it right there in that lobby behind you. I highly recommend it. Thank you to all of you for being here with us today. We will conclude today's program with the playing of God Bless America. God bless all of you, and happy Veterans Day.